Hello everybody, welcome back to the Strategy Talks and Mechanics Guide series, and oh boy, do we have quite the video for you this episode. This is the episode that we're going to be discussing the upcoming Legendary Beasts event. Now, the Beasts are back for their Rerun event, so that it gives new players the opportunity to catch these Pokemon that may have evaded them because they weren't around during their first event. Or it gives returning players an opportunity to hunt a specific one that they may have not caught the first time around. So, how do we min-max this? How do we optimize this? And my goodness, there is a lot to discuss. Now, I do have to give a brief apology first. I usually like to have a lot of visuals, maybe even a slideshow for a lot of these videos. I like to run a lot of Rerun X simulations, and I like to show all that. But this time around, I just want to get this video out for you guys, and it's been proving to be a lot of work. So I did cut back in the amount of visuals this time around, but I still have all the information here, and just know that I did all the same simulations that I did before. All the numbers, they do come from the same math that I typically do. I may just not be showing you the source, but know that all of this information comes from Rerun X or from data mines. Rerun X is one of the biggest things, one of the biggest community contributors, for sure. They do give us a lot of information that's very beneficial. But let's dive right into what we can do to optimize this event. Now, I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people aren't discussing that we need to address right away is when it comes to this event, I think that you should pick your goals. There's a lot of different ways that you can come at this event, and realistically, there's a lot of different things that you could be working towards. If you're a newer player, maybe you just want to catch one of every Pokemon to have them in the box as a trophy. A player that is going to be playing like that, and that's their goal, is going to play this a lot differently than a player who is just trying to catch the best of them, or trying to catch just one that they can run on their team and invest in. Or a long-term player who already has these Pokemon caught, who doesn't need them. All three of those players are going to approach this game very differently during this event, because you really should be trying to make the game do what you want it to do, and not be just going into this event blind and being like, oh, I gotta catch legendaries. Why do you gotta catch legendaries? What legendaries do you want to catch? What is your reasoning for going for them? And consider that. Now, I think there are a couple different goals, and I'm going to break them down each by what the goal is and how I think the best approach to achieving that goal is. Now, first thing that I want to address is that farming as many mains as possible, because a lot of people think that's their goal, that is not a goal. Don't think of farming mains as your goal, because mains are not useful outside of the event. They won't be there in 3 weeks from now. You won't have a single main left. If farming mains is your goal, then you're wasting your time here. The mains are a mean to an end. Think about the end goal. And if mains can't really contribute to that, maybe be willing to not farm as many mains, because there are other goals you could be accomplishing. But main productivity and maximizing it can be one of the primary factors that contribute to helping us in achieving our other goals that are actual goals for the game during this event. Now, given that, I do have some fast tips for optimizing main productivity. Now, based on some simulations that I ran in Rerun X's Sleep Rewards simulator, like I've done in the past, the Old Gold Power Plant produces a few more mains per day than Cyan and Top, which, when you're talking a few more mains per day, that does add up significantly throughout the duration of the event. But Green Grass, interestingly enough, is the best of the four. Not even Green Grass Expert Mode, just Green Grass Normal. Now, my theory as to why this is the case is likely because Green Grass's diversity is actually helping it. At Top, you're going to see a lot more Fire types. Cyan, you're going to see a lot more Water types. And at Old Gold Power Plant, you're going to see a lot more Electric types. Well, at Greengrass, they all spawn there, and with all of them having much greater boosted spawn rates, it's just naturally going to have more of the Electric, Fire, and Water spawns that naturally give you more mains during the event because of the boosting. There's multiple different types you can see. It's well on both snoozing and slumbering, which are the two sleep styles. Also, another big thing, try to avoid dozing sleep. I know you can't really control how you sleep, but maybe keep the Go++ or your phone further away from you on the bed, because snoozing is the best during this, because fire and electric types are both boosted, and they're both better for mains, and slumbering is better for water types, but dozing doesn't have any of them spawning. Now, they still can spawn because of pseudo-balancing, but you want it to skew towards those others. So maybe put the phone further away from you on the bed. That's just a fast tip. Maybe you won't get dozing sleep then, which is easily the worst. But Greengrass having the greater diversity means that you can encounter more of the Pokemon that have the boosted spawns, and there's enough boosted spawn Pokemon that it's counteracting the effects of the just overall broader spawn pool, which is the problem that we typically see at Greengrass. Now, I think Old Gold Power Plant probably produces more, logically, just because it is a later island, higher quality spawns, rarer spawns, and also there are a decent amount more electric types in the game than water and fire, I believe. I didn't double check that, so I could be wrong. But I'm pretty certain there are more, and the ones that do exist are rarer. The only single stage Pokemon that are in the boosted spawn rates are electric types, being Dedenne, Plusle, and Minun, which they do give an average more mains than base stage Pokemon. Now, unfortunately, and I have to dive into something here real quick, I'm sure that a lot of you people are asking, what about Expert Mode? Is Expert Mode better? And the answer is probably. I can't give you a for sure answer on that, because now the people at RainOnX team, I really thank them for all the work they're doing. It is phenomenal, but at this point, we still have not cracked the code on the Expert Mode spawning algorithm. Now, I don't begrudge them for this. They're doing a lot of hard work on it. I know there's people entering data a lot. They're trying to figure it out so that they can make these tools for us accessible and make it so that we can properly project for Expert Mode. But as of right now, the tools do not exist to figure out how much mains we can expect for this upcoming event. However, there is a tool to exist that does project it, but it projects it based off of their estimate for what the spawn algorithm looks like, which means we can't really fully trust it. So know that if you rely on Expert Mode main productivity, it's probably a gamble, because we don't know. We don't know if that really is the average amount that you can expect of of main. I'm gonna keep calling it down sometimes. That's what it was called during the Cresselia event. It's technically mains. Actually, I think it's technically event items, but I'm going to call it mains when I can. I may accidentally call it down. Anyway, side tangent away. We can't project. We can't project and predict. So the Expert Mode projections may let us down in the end if you're going to rely on that for this information. But I did include them in my calculations, and I did include them in the calculator that I'm about to show you, because I know that a lot of you are probably thinking about going to Expert Mode. And if it is correct, then it is good information to have if the projections turn out to be correct. But I couldn't, in good conscience, give you this information without giving the disclaimer about the tools for Expert Mode not being fully certified quite yet. Now, however, Expert Mode, with the projections right now, it is likely to be the highest producing for mains, as early as like a range of like 1 to 3 million strength, and going past that, it's likely going to produce even more mains. If these projections are correct, and if you assume equal strength. However, if you're at Greengrass Expert Mode, you most likely are not going to be at equal strength, because the maximum amount of area bonus you could possibly have right now at Greengrass Expert is going to be 20% for week 1 and 25% for week 2. Compared to, if you're that long-term of a player, you probably have 75% area bonus everywhere else. So, after adjusting for that, it really only outperforms if you are able to exceed the plateau point for other islands, which I found to be around 6 million Snorlax strength, if you can reach that point. So, if you think that you can exceed the point where the other islands plateau, then I think that might be worthwhile, which, based off the calculations that I ran, is about Master 7 at Greengrass Expert mode. If you can hit that pretty early on, then I think that it's probably going to net you more down, or mains, for the purposes of this event. But that's going to be a pretty difficult call to make. Run your own projections to see if you can reach that point early on in the week, or if you're only like just barely reaching that point. And if you don't reach Master 7, then you're missing all your opportunities to encounter wild legendaries, or wild 3-stars, 3-star styles entirely at the islands. There are costs. So I would advise making sure that you can hit that Master 7 threshold. Otherwise, probably don't consider Greengrass Expert. Now, a few other tips to boost your main productivity. Now, the first one that I wanted to address is, well, run a good camp ticket for sure. Good camp tickets just give you one more spawn if possible. Even if you're free to play, I'd advise if you have the diamonds and you've already maxed out your ingredient bag space, then I would say this is an event to do it for. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of potential rewards, and good camp ticket is one of the highest bangs for your buck that you can get when it comes to your diamonds. So if you already have your ingredient bag maxed out, and even if you're free to play, I'd say buy a good camp ticket for this event, at least for one of the weeks, probably week 2. An extra spawn every night is huge for main productivity. Additionally, I'd say run a Pokemon incense every night if you can, even if it's not a legendary. Now, here's where I wanted to address something that Brovini mentioned in the video that he released today. Now, first, how would I prioritize this? Well, first, I would use any legendary beast incense that you have, if that's ones that you purchase, or ones that you have stockpiled from previous events. In Brovini's video, I don't like to call out other YouTubers all that much. I did it for one video, and it remains to be one of my most controversial videos on the channel. But I do want to address that I think Brovini gave poor advice. He basically said that you should use your legendary incense that you have stockpiled from past events as soon as possible before the event comes around, because they're giving us cheaper incenses this time around. And you should be using, if you have more than 14, you can only use so many during the event. So try to be using the ones during the event that you purchase. I think that's wrong, because I don't think it's reasonable to assume that everyone can afford every single incense from the shop, and you're probably going to have to use a legendary beast incense at least once or twice. Well, at least you'll have a couple nights that you probably won't be able to run it. So you have them stockpiled from past events. You should be saving those legendary beast incenses. Don't be using them, because you should be using them during the event to get extra mains that you wouldn't get otherwise. Because you probably wouldn't be able to use a legendary beast incense every single night of the event. There's only so many cheap ones, about 9, and there's 14 nights of the event. So that is my advice regarding that. But use your legendary beast incense first. It's renewable only during the event, and it yields the most mains by quite a bit. Now, following that, there's Cresselia incense. If you have one left over from the Cress versus Darkrai event, then you can use that here. Cress does produce a decent amount of mains. It's not quite as much as the Legendary Beast, but it's only off by like 1 or 2 for most of its sleep styles. However, there are expenses when considering using a Cress incense. It itself can be used for running during a Dream Shard boosted raid event or another event where the rewards may be more useful. And there are other events or other incenses that you can use here to potentially get a decent amount of mains despite not using a Cress incense, more so than what the difference would otherwise be during an event where different type incenses wouldn't necessarily yield more mains. Additionally, it can be used during a shiny boost like the New Moon event or during Christmas, or Christmas is very important for Dream Shards. But then the final point here is that using a Cress incense completely eliminates your chance of encountering a wild legendary, which this event is landmark because for the first time in the game's history, they're giving the legendary beasts a greater appearance rate. Not a slightly greater appearance rate, a greater appearance rate. There's a very big difference there, and I've run the calcs on it, and I'll circle back to that later. But you're actually losing out on a lot of potential wild beast spawns, especially if you're going to Greengrass Island. Also, Cress Incense can only be used if you go to Greengrass, so because only the legendary beast incenses are the ones that can be used outside of their regular islands during this event. So that's a potential opportunity cost by running Chris instance. I probably would advise holding on to it for a shiny boosted or dream shard boosted event. But then the next priority would be Dedenne, Plusle, and Minun. They yield the most of any Pokemon in the game, aside from the legendaries themselves, that you can have incense for, that is. Fully evolved Pokemon can yield more, but for base form Pokemon that have incense forms, Dedenne, Plusle, and Minun drop the most amount of mains, followed by all other fire, water, and electric type Pokemon, then followed by off-type 16-pip Pokemon, so other single stage that are more rare base forms, and then followed by all other type Pokemon's incenses. So that's be the priority list for how much mains they would yield in the event that you are trying to get more mains from it. I'd highly advise, if you have the capability and the incenses and resources to do so, try to run a Pokemon incense every single night during this event, whether it be a legendary or just something else to get an extra spawn for more mains. But then, the last part about this whole main talk is going to be about budgeting. Now, here's where we finally dive into my spreadsheet. I made a monster spreadsheet. It looks ugly, I will admit. I was going to try to tidy it up a little bit, but I'm in a hurry here, because I only have so much time to get this video out for you guys, so I didn't have time to necessarily tidy it up, but it's a budgeting tool, and I'm going to share this, link it in the description of the video. If I forget, someone please leave a comment so I can remember to go back in later, add it after the fact. But basically, the way this works is you put in the goal of the items that you want to purchase to work towards your goal, and then you select all the rank rewards, or the mission rewards that you think you can achieve. You input your number of friends of each level. It gives you an estimate of how many mains you'll get per day. So then you input that down here, how much you think you'll get from sleep research per day, any bundles that you want to buy down here, and then it just tells you how many mains you'll get during the course of the week based off of that incenses. Oh, also how many incenses you intend to use during the duration of the week, which I intend to probably use like 6 or 7. That actually changes things for me. I'm probably going to have to rebudget after seeing that. And then what island you're selecting. You input all this, and it tells you what the cost is going to be of the items that you want to purchase, how many mains you'll be getting from the event on average estimate as a projection, and then you can just look at that and see if it's within your budget or not. If you put in a 0 here, don't buy it. If you put in a 1, you can buy 1 of them. If you put in a 2, you can buy 2 of them. You can adjust the budget as the week goes on by, let's say one of your goals is to catch a Suicune. Okay, let's say you get lucky on the first one, it mega hits. Now you only need to buy 1 incense. You don't need to buy a second incense. Then you can change this to a 1. And then you get a new number. And then you can go back and recalculate. You can use it throughout the duration of the week. But it's a flexible budget, not fixed. But you can come back to it as time goes on. Put it in here. Put in what you think you'll get. And then, yeah. Now, a couple more minute parts of this. The reasoning why all this matters. So, this is sleep research. How much do you think you get from sleep research per day? I put a recommended mains per night based off what you expect your Snorlax strength is going to be on average. As you can see, Greengrass is the most, followed by, or Greengrass Expert is generally the most, followed by Greengrass, Old Gold Power Plant, and then Top and Cyan, very similar. This will tell you times 14, you get roughly this many. Based off of how many friends you have of each level, I've included details from the past events, based off of the odds and drop amounts that we saw with the past events that had an event shop. You can multiply it out here, and it'll tell you roughly how many event drops you would have gotten from those past events with your current number of friends at each level. And if this is yellow, then you're at the exact amount of 50. If it is green, then you're below 50. If it's red, you made a miscalculation and bought too many, or put down that you had too many friends. That's another thing. If you say, oh, I want to buy 3, let's say you want to buy 51 Raikou candy here, it'll turn red. So you can't accidentally plan to purchase something that's not in the shop for you. It turns red whenever you try to buy too many of an item that isn't actually available, and it's green if it's less than it, 3 when it's exactly at the maximum amount. Now, I also wanted to bring attention to bundles and their expense down here, because down here I made it so that purchasing diamonds per item, it tells you the value, basically. If it costs more diamonds per research item, then that is a worse bundle as far as the goal of gaining mains go. So if your primary goal is to collect more mains, then the first ones you should target are the ones that are lower on this number. Now, maybe you, like me, I intend to purchase a research bundle M for a good camp ticket. So this is already kind of budgeted in. I can just put it down, and then it adds it in. Now, here it shows your total diamonds that you're going to be spending if you intend to purchase that many bundles. But then I also included a rough calculation down here, depending upon how many diamonds you purchase at a time, if you are paying on the game for diamonds, then it tells you, based off of that calculation, the US dollar equivalent of the diamonds that you spent, just so that you have a good idea of the finances you're spending on this game. And you can see here, if you purchase the Research Bundle M and the last Chance Bundle S, then that's already, you're talking, if you purchase 7,000 diamonds at a time, you basically spent 27 real-world dollars on those 2 bundles. So, I wanted just to put that in there so that you were aware. I think that one thing that doesn't get too much discussed within the community is that real-world dollars, you only have so many of them, even if you are a whale. And you have to, spending money on the game can only assist you if you spend the money on things that actually help you. So, if you were to buy the things that, let's say you just buy the Research Bundle L expecting the most amount of main output, then that's actually not helping you very much in efficiency of mains. That's helping you maybe in other regards, because there are other items in those bundles. But for the purposes of mains, these are the 2 bundles that'll give you the best output. So, that's really all to discuss when it comes to this calculator. If you want... And then, incenses. If you're going to use incenses during the week, you put that here. You select which island it's going to be at. Now, this matters because if you're at Greengrass, you have a higher odds of encountering wild legendaries. So using an incense will give you the same amount of mains as you're expecting. It would yield the same amount of mains based off of the sleep styles being available, what sleep styles it would give you. Also, Greengrass Expert, they give more mains because it's just the expert mode boost. But because you're decreasing the chance of wild legendary spawn to 0, that actually decreases the value gained by running a legendary incense that night. So you'll notice that, like, if you run 6 incenses throughout the duration of the week, the event at Greengrass, you'll only get an expected 42 more than if you hadn't run the incenses. But compared to top, you get like 120 more incense mains than what you would otherwise. So that is something else to consider that I accounted for in the calculator there, because you do get more mains when you use the legendary incense, so that's why I threw that down. Now, me personally, I'm planning on going to Old Gold Power Plant, running like 6 or 7 incenses, so I can see that as of right now, I'm under budget, or over budget, because I'm expecting to spend 2253 mains, and I only have 2217 is what the game is, what I'm projected to get by end of week. Now, that's the budgeting talk. If you don't prioritize what will work you towards the goal, your goal best, then you will likely be buying something that doesn't work towards that goal, and then you'll potentially fail to accomplish the goal that you want to get out of this event. Like I said, make sure to use the event and force it to do what you want it to do for you, and not let the hype that other players are theorizing as their reasoning for that they want to get out of this event. Don't let what they want to do decide what you want to do, because what you want to do is probably something different. Now, time to actually get into the real goals that you can actually have. What I kind of framed this would be, the first goal you can have is to gamble to catch a good legend. Now, this might be a good option for people who were around during the first legendary events that already have one of each, and you didn't catch a good one. Now you want to catch a good one, because you want to invest, you want to have that on the table, you want to be able to berry bomb in the future, which is the best Pokemon for berry bombing. Then, what is the best way to get a good legend? Well, the first thing that I'd say, pick a legend. Pick a single legend that you have the best box for, or that you can work best towards. It'll probably be Raikou, just because Raikou has access to an Energy for Everyone healer partner, and also Jolteon, which pairs pretty nicely with it for overstacking. But if you don't have that, then you have like a great Typhlosion and a great Ninetales, then maybe Entei is the option. Look at your box, assess which type of Pokemon you have the best stuff for, and then pick that one to hunt. If you want a good legendary, don't say, oh, I'm going to just try to catch a good one of each one of them. It's probably best to just target one. Because if you haven't caught them in the past, the first one's going to be fixed. If you have to catch one of each before you can even start randomly rolling on each one, that's going to be way more expensive than just focusing down on one. Additionally, you can go to the island that legendary is the only wild spawn at, and then that maximizes your odds of encountering that one wild on nights that you aren't able to use the incense. Raikou's probably the best, like I said, followed by probably Entei and then Suicune, just because of the options that are available. But that's, I'd say, then plan to go to that island of wherever that is. So that's Cyan Beach for Suicune, that's Old Gold Power Plant for Raikou, that is Top Hollow for Entei. And then prioritize that Pokemon's incenses and Premier Biscuits above everything else. If you want to catch a good one, then realistically, in this budgeting, it should just look like, instead of having 2 and 2 here, it should maybe 0, 0, and then for Raikou incenses, like 4. Granted, that'll be more expensive because these are more expensive incenses, because they're the second tier. But since you don't care about Suicune and Entei, and you're just hunting the Raikou, you don't need to spend the biscuits on these incenses, realistically, for the goal that you are trying to accomplish. Then, I'd say also prioritize Premier Biscuits. I think as far as catching goes, if you want to maximize your odds of catching them, I wouldn't ever run an incense without at least having 3 to 4, probably 4, either Premier Biscuits and Ultra Biscuits combined that you're willing to spend. Now, I still would advise trying to buy the main skill seed from the shop, because if you don't have any seed to invest into them, even if you catch a good one, it's not going to be good until it can get the main skill seed. So I'd still advise buying the main skill seed. But theoretically, if you're all right settling for not getting that main skill seed, to have a few more shots at a good legend roll, you can always wait to buy that seed until the very end of the event to be able to buy additional incenses as a failsafe. Have that buffer there as a failsafe if you don't land a good one early on and you want to gamble for one last shot. Additionally, I'd say have the mindset that you are gambling. Realistically, trying to catch a good legendary, the odds of it happening are very slim. If you successfully done it, you got very, very lucky. It's not a guarantee, it's not promised to you, but the more attempts that you are gambling at, the more likely that it is that you hit big. Now, if you don't have the other legends, and you do want them for the box still, despite this being your primary goal, you still can catch at least one of them fairly cheaply using the incense. Especially the week 2 incense. This stuff is only 70 mains per each one. I'd advise going for these ones first. And then early week 2 looking to be when you catch that additional legendary of each type. Just because it gives you more opportunities to hunt the one that you really want. And then you kind of come and catch these guys later. Okay, then the next thing, the next potential goal that you could have would be catching them for the box and filling your decks regarding them. If this is your goal, it's likely because either you weren't around for the first ones and you just want to have them in the box as a trophy, or you're a relatively new player and you just want to catch one of each. You know, it's a cool Pokemon. They're legendaries. If this is your goal, then go to Greengrass. Hands down, just go to Greengrass. I wouldn't take the risk on Greengrass Expert Mode. Unless you're a really late game player, but if that's the case, you were probably around for the first times we had these legendary events. The odds of encountering a wild legendary dog or beast during this event at Greengrass is crazy. That change from slightly greater appearance rate to greater appearance rate is insane, and the fact that all 3 of them can spawn naturally just compounds that effect even more. If you're beyond 4 million Snorlax strength, based on the Rain on X Sleep Style sniper tool that I've ran, the odds of encountering any wild legendary during this event are, at Greengrass, 64% chance if you get Snoozing Sleep, a 59% chance if you get Balanced, a 56% chance you get slumbering, and a 46% chance if you get dozing. Even on the worst sleep style, it's still a 46% chance of encountering a wild legendary if you're beyond 4 million Snorlax strength. If you're not using an incense, obviously. Across those four, it averages to 56% chance that you encounter a wild legendary on any given night, if you assume that there's equal odds of getting any of the four sleep styles. Now, just for comparison, so first off, 56% chance, that's better than coin flip odds. For comparison, at Old Gold Power Plant at 5 million Snorlax strength, for comparison, is under a 27% chance for this same metric that I've used. That is less than half of what the odds are at Greengrass. So, realistically, your odds of encountering wild legendaries are actually pretty high if you go to Greengrass Expert Mode. Given that, I would prioritize catching or purchasing the cheaper incenses of each, the week 2 incenses as well, but going into those secondary ones might be a bit unnecessary because you have a base rate of at least a coin flip of encountering them wildly if you get to those higher Snorlax strengths. So the biggest thing that you should prioritize, aside from those cheaper incenses, is those biscuits. You want to make sure you have the biscuits before you have the incenses, because if you encounter them wild, which is actually pretty likely during this event, based off the Rerun X calculations I've run, it is important to have those biscuits on hand for when they do spawn in naturally. With a 56% chance of spawning each night, if you were to run no incense at all, you'd be really likely to encounter at least one naturally without running anything. You could encounter them just happenstance come across them if you go to Greengrass Expert. Or not Expert, Greengrass Normal. As far as Expert Mode goes, once again, I can't properly run these calculations just because the spawn algorithm isn't figured out for it. So, unfortunately, those numbers are not available. But every wild legendary that you encounter is one less incense you have to buy, assuming that you have the biscuits for it. Now, the next big thing is to prioritize the biscuits. Well, that's actually what I was saying. Once again, I'd say try to have at least 3 to 4 Premier and Ultra biscuits combined in the stockpile ready to spend, just like I advised earlier. And then, once you run out of biscuits in the shop, then look towards other incenses, and then the other resources if you already achieved your goal. So as far as what priorities to purchase, I'd still strongly advise grabbing that main skill seed. It's a high ticket item, high priority for every playstyle, but theoretically this isn't going to help you at getting your trophies, because if you're just looking to trophy hunt one of each legendary, then you're probably not going to be using it because you're getting the base stats. You're not going to be getting to re-roll those sub-skills. But realistically, the main skill seed is just very valuable. I would still probably go for it. Now, if your goal is game progression, like other game progression, strengthening your box as a whole, then you can throw out a lot of what I've talked about as far as hunting legendaries go. A legendary, and here's a big secret that a lot of people don't talk about, legendaries are not optimal to use in this game. For one, you can try to get the legend of your dreams, but it's still a gamble. You can pretty much guarantee that you'll catch at least one of Raikou, Entei, or Suicune during this event. But if you, then it's just a trophy hunt. It's not actually going to help your optimization and your progress in the game. But then the second thing is, if you do happen to land a good one somehow, they really still are not that worth it. They're very expensive. They take skill seeds, they take a lot of candy, because it's probably going to use all your handy candy since that's a very rare candy to receive from natural means. And then it's going to cost pretty much all your dream shards after the event as well. That's a lot of dream shards to level them up, especially to the higher levels. So they're really not worth the cost that they have. And you can take this from someone who did catch a phenomenal Entei. I personally have a really good Entei that I've invested to like level 51. I've got a really good Cresselia that I've invested to level, I think it's 61 right now. I have gone broke because of these Pokemon. And I genuinely think that I would be a little bit further along if I wasn't trying to gain the style points of using legendary Pokemon. Additionally, you can only run one per team, and as more legendaries are released, fighting over that special slot is going to become more and more difficult. So you want to make sure that the one that you're investing is a good one. So the real big tip here is that for optimizing your game, just don't try to catch them. If you truly want to progress your game further, and your goal is nothing related to catching the legendary beast for style points, then just ignore them, genuinely. There are things that you can do that are related to using the incense that are optimal choices. I think that trying to target the sleep styles, the higher rank sleep styles, is very beneficial, because you'll unlock sleep styles that you otherwise probably will never encounter naturally. Like the 3-star and 2-star legendaries are such rare styles based on the game's natural spawning algorithm. It's very, very, very rare to encounter either of them naturally. So that should be a target for you if you want to max out your sleep decks. And additionally, you should save at least one of each incense for outside of event use. Like I was talking about earlier with Cresselia, it can give massive dream shards during the holiday event or future event currencies if you use them in future events, like what we had with the New Year's event in the past. Or the New Year's event. Or the Cresselia vs. Darkrai later on. Saving legendary incenses post-event is investing in your Pokemon's future. I would also advise that any player looking for the most progress should probably go to Greengrass. Since you won't be buying or using as many legendary incenses, it is a great idea to take as much advantage of that high wild legendary spawn rate as you can, because every time you get one, that's a lot of free mains. Additionally, it gives a lot of free mains for just going there to begin with, because it yields the highest amount. Maybe you can gamble with expert mode, but it is unlikely that you will encounter too many of them to hunt. Oh, yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say. Slightly boosted rates. I wouldn't worry about trying to hunt any other Pokemon during this event or choosing your island based off of other boosted spawns. There are so many slightly boosted rates, and it's only slightly boosted outside of the legendary beasts, that you're not going to really be able to hyper-focus any particular hunt, because they're really not that much boosted, and there's a lot of them watering down the pool. So, however, this event still can aid you, because there are other things in the shop that you should be trying to purchase. Encountering the legends does bring in a ton of dream shards and research XP, so that's why it's nice to encounter them naturally when you can. And those rarer styles are more difficult to get outside of the event. And you can catch the main, or get the main skill seed. That should be the primary goal for any player looking to optimize their game and just ignore the legends. Skill seeds are such a limited resource for everyone that if you're looking to advance progression in the game, you should always try to pick up one whenever you have a chance possible. And then I'd say prioritize the cheaper biscuits, the cheaper premier biscuits in the shop. That may sound kind of counterintuitive, just because those biscuits, you're not going to be using them to catch the legendaries, but converting them to great biscuits post-event is still a pretty solid use for them. And if you're not buying the really expensive ones, like you're just buying the cheaper ones earlier in the week, these two, and then these two from week 2, you're talking about only about like 100 to 220 biscuits spent, or mains spent, for 4 great biscuits, potentially. Great biscuits have value, and they're pretty rare to come by, especially for free-to-play players. So I'd prioritize that as well. Now, evolution stones are an interesting discussion. I'd say if you have a Pokemon that you want to use an evolution stone to evolve, or you're planning on hunting a Pokemon that uses an evolution stone to evolve, I think this is one of the highest priority items if you're looking to optimize your game. But as far as past that, I still think there can be some reasoning for purchasing them, and that is for future mons to be added to the game. As you can see, I've marked here a water stone potentially being on my target list of things I want to buy, and a thunderstone. Now, why is that? Well, and why water and thunder and not fire? That's just because of the number of Pokemon that could be added to the game that would be using those items. As far as Firestone goes, if we take a look at how many Pokemon have been released that are in the game that are potential to be future added, the only ones that aren't in the game are Capsicid and Pansear. Now, Pansear is a part of a trio. If they're ever to add Pansear, they're probably adding or not Simisear, that is its evolution, Panpour and Simipour, which take a Water Stone, notably. So if they were to add that, the Water Stone would have equal value. So you can basically ignore Pansear, because if you would buy a Fire Stone for Pansear, you should be buying a Water Stone in preparation for Simipour. Capsicid is the only one. Hisuian Growlithe does also exist, but I don't see Hisuian Mons being added anytime soon. There's a bit of some weird lore implications with them being from the past. So Capsicid is like the only one that I would say is likely to be added that isn't already in the game, because we already have Ninetales and Arcanine, we already have Flareon. The only ones that could be added would be Hisuian, Arcanine, and Capsicid, and Pansear. But I think this is the only one that Firestone has going for it that the other stones don't. Now, Thunderstone's real interesting to me personally, because I have a lot of Pichus that are very powerful, very good subskills, that could become Alolan Raichus if they ever do add it to the game. And that takes a Thunderstone. Additionally, there's also Nosepass, Electric, Charjabug is already in the game, and Tadbolt. There's a lot more options that they could be adding, and none of them have any weird lore implications like Hisui and Arcanine. Alolan Raichu, yes, it does only evolve in the Alola region, but regions is a bit more easy to justify than a different time era. So that's why I could see that being added. And also, it's a difference of 3 lines compared to 4. That's one more line that the Thunderstone can use. But Waterstone, I think, if you're going to be looking to the future, I think we're going to have some Pokemon added eventually that takes another Waterstone. Because as of right now, the only Mon in the game that uses it is Vaporeon. There's a lot of different potential options for it. 5 that still could be added. All of which don't have any weird stuff going on, like being Hisuian. There's Poliwrath, Cloyster, Starmie, Ludicolo, and Simipour, which a lot of these are fan favorites that a lot of people have been asking for. I've seen a lot of requests for Shelder, for Cloyster. A lot of people want it to be some sort of tail farmer if they do ever add that. I hope it's just a gimmick. Not great at it, but that's a potential thing. Poliwrath, I know, is a Gen 1 Pokemon, Gen 1 bias that a lot of people have. A lot of people love it, and I've seen it requested on the subreddit before. Staryu, upcoming soon, is Legend ZA. Now, Staryu, it doesn't have a Mega yet, but I know there have been some leaks, and one of the most common leaks is a Mega Staryu. And while I don't expect this game to have Megas anytime soon, I do think they are going to be playing off the Mega hype. And if Staryu does get a Mega, or Starmie does get a Mega Evolution in ZA, then I think there'll be a lot of hype around it. And I think Sleep might play off that hype by adding it here as well. Additional Ludicolo, I think, would just look great in the Sleep art style. I've seen some fan art for it before. And Panpour, like I said, is the one that just makes it so that Simisear doesn't really have a reasoning for going for Firestone instead. So I'd say if you don't have any particular evolution that you're targeting that's already in the game that you need to evolve with a stone, I think that there's a decent reason to try and stockpile at least one Water Stone, maybe a Thunderstone, for potential future releases. That being said, you're buying kind of insurance that a future you won't have to spend 1,400 sleep points on said evolution item. Maybe they'll never add a Pokemon that uses a Thunderstone. You just wasted 120 mains. You never know there. But it's something that I think is worth consideration. Now, the last thing I'd say is avoid Dream Clusters. Dream Clusters really are kind of a sink, in my opinion, because they're kind of like a bandage. They're not solving the problem. If you have a Dream Shard problem, a few extra Cluster S right here and right now aren't going to fix that. You'll need to either fix it by correcting your spending habits in the game, not investing in Pokemon that you're not using, or you'll have to create some sort of additional income by either organizing stronger teams and or investing a Dream Shard Magnet Pokemon. There are much better solutions for Dream Shards that will get you more Dream Shards long term. A simple purchasing of Dream Shard Cluster S right now is not a very great investment in my mind. Additionally, candies, though, I think can be a good option because they can be used on literally anything. It can be used on your pseudos. It can be used on Pokemon like 16-pip Pokemon that people don't send out a lot of candies for because they're not necessarily great that you've been investing. Any more sort of mid Pokemon. I know a lot of people struggle with Houndour and Houndoom because not very many people send that candy It's not at very many islands, but if you have a good one, it almost feels like a pseudo-legendary to level up, because you just never get the candies for it, even if it isn't a pseudo-legendary. And it's a berry mon, so it actually cares about its level, so that makes it extra difficult. Pokemon like that, you can use it on those Pokemon. Handy Candy is very valuable because of how flexible it is. Dream Shards are a consistent income thing, not necessarily a one-time quick fix by purchasing. Then, I also wanted to discuss, finally, the last thing that I wanted to discuss here was cosmetic goals. So these are goals that really don't make any influence on gameplay, but are kind of like a fun collector's thing. That would be shiny hunting and legacy mon hunting. Now, the first one, shiny hunting. If you're looking to shiny hunt, go to expert mode. I know that I said everything else is a risk with expert mode because we don't have that data yet, and I probably wouldn't advise it because of the lower area bonus. But as far as expert mode goes, it is now confirmed that the expert mode shiny boost stacks with any sort of event boosts and runs during an event. So that just gives a passive boost. That's going to help you with your shiny odds. Additionally, try to save any legendary instances post-event for other universal shiny boost events like Christmas or the New Moon. And then the last thing I wanted to say was legacy Pokemon. It is very notable that during this event, Raikou and Suicune and Entei, they can spawn at islands they wouldn't normally be able to spawn at if you're using an incense. This leads to, you can catch a Pokemon that has in its description that it was caught at X island, or whatever island you caught it at. And if that's at an island, that's, like, let's say it's an Entei at Old Gold Power Plant. That can only be caught during this event. It is a legacy Pokemon, and being a legacy legendary is just cool conceptually to me and to people out there that have a more collector mindset. This is something that I'm going to be targeting and is actually one of my personal goals during the week. So that's just an additional rarity thing. So yeah, that basically is it for the video. If you have enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I always try to do videos like this for every single one of the major events, so if you want to come back for that, for future events, and be well informed on the strategy talks, then be sure to make sure you have that notifications enabled. But huge thank you to all my channel members. It really means a lot to me. You guys want to show your support financially, despite there being no paid rewards for members. If you too want to become a channel member and are financially capable of doing so, then feel free to click that join button down below. And as always, I thank you all for watching and hope that you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.